What information, if any, do you need to share with your children about your money? It's a touchy and fun topic, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey everyone, my name is Grant Ellis. I'm the host of this show and also the founder and owner of Ellis Retirement Services. We're a full suite financial services firm headquartered outside of Memphis, Tennessee, but we help clients all across the country prepare for, enter, and live in retirement. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Do you need to give your kids any information about your money? I know your initial reaction is probably, no, absolutely not. This is my money. This is not their money. They don't need to know anything about it. And depending on how you grew up and what generation you are in, you might have a different methodology or thought process around the topic of sharing information about your money. I know when I grew up with my parents and their parents, no one ever talked about money. It wasn't something that you shared with other people. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just the nature of the way it was. And things have changed a little bit where generations my age and below typically are more willing to share information about their financial situation, for better or for worse. And we work with clients every day who are nearing, entering, and living in retirement. And one thing we find is that it is actually very valuable for certain pieces of information regarding their financial lives to be shared with their children and grandchildren if they wish. And even though it might seem like something that you wouldn't want to share with anyone, what it does is to make sure that your wishes are carried out however you want them to be. It also helps your children, as they're in the middle of their planning process, understand what they'll be dealing with in the future and what options they have now. So you probably don't want to share all of your financial information with your children. You can if you want to, it's your money. But I want to walk you through several things that we encourage our clients to share with their children at the very minimum, whether your children are 18 or 65 years old. Let's start with number one, and that is I encourage all of our clients to give their kids a list of their accounts. A list of their accounts, whatever types of accounts they have, whether they're investment accounts, bank accounts, cash accounts, money market accounts, any type of accounts they have. I encourage our clients to provide their children with a list of these accounts. And with that list of accounts, I also encourage them to tell them what type of account the account is, where the account is held, and if there's an advisor, who the advisor is and how to contact them. So once again, you give a list of the accounts, you tell where the account's at. You don't have to give the account number if you don't want to. Some people choose to do that. Some people think that's a little bit too private. And you also don't have to share how much money or investments are in that account if you don't want to. Completely up to you. But what it does is in the event that something happens to you, or inevitably when you pass away, that information is compiled. So your children or your spouse or anyone in your family doesn't have to go on a hide and seek journey to figure out what accounts you have and where they're at and what they have access to. That information is all compiled for them. And what you'll find is most of the information that we do encourage our clients to provide their children is there to protect and provide for the children in terms of making their life easier when you do pass away. But it also is just good to keep organized in case things change in your life while you're alive. So that's number one. Provide them with a list of accounts and all the basic information that is there. It's good for you because you'll know exactly where everything's at. It's good for your spouse if you have one. It's also good for your kids when you do pass away because they don't have to go seeking all of that information out. Okay, number two. You want to make sure that your children and your spouse, if you have one, know the location of your will and have a copy of it. And yes, a lot of the information we're talking about today might be considered morbid, but if you think about it, when you pass away, you want to make sure that your family is taken care of. That's why we spend so much time working through estate plans with our clients. And part of that process is to make sure they have the information they need. You don't want them going on a wild goose chase looking for your documentation, which includes your will. So an easy thing to do is to provide your loved ones with a copy of your will, or at the very least, let them know the location of it. Again, when you do pass away, which is unfortunately going to happen, they have to find that document so they can make sure that your wishes are carried out. And the easiest way for them to do that is if you have provided that to them in advance of you passing away. So that's number two. Make sure they have a copy of the will or know the location of the will so that you can carry out your wishes with your family. Number three, which is somewhat tied to number two, you want to make sure that your family knows the person who is in charge of executing your estate, who is in charge of making sure that all of the things that happen in your estate are carried out. This person is called the executor. You want to ensure that the family members know who's in charge of carrying out your wishes when you pass away. Again, I know it's a morbid topic, but it's very important. Typically, someone in your will or in a trust is appointed to make sure that everything you have laid out in your will and estate plan is carried out. It is their legal responsibility upon your passing to make sure that that happens. If you don't appoint someone and you don't set up an estate plan that provides for it, your estate will go into what's called probate, which is in essence where it goes into a governmental system where they decide and make sure that everything is carried out. Sometimes to your wishes, sometimes not if you haven't given them instructions. So we always encourage everyone, number one, give plenty of instructions. Anything that you want to happen when you pass away, you want to make sure not only is it in legal documentation and that your loved ones have a copy of that documentation so they know without any question what you want to happen. And part of that is understanding who the executor is. If you don't have someone listed and your account does go into probate, the court can appoint an executor, and they do have a responsibility to make sure that your estate is closed, but it's not as clean and convenient as listing the person you want to have that responsibility before you pass away. So, number three, make sure that everyone you love knows who the executor of your estate is, in addition to a listing of accounts, which was number one, and also the location or a copy of the will, which was number two. On to number four. We highly encourage our clients to ensure their loved ones know how they want to be taken care of, should they need long-term care as they age, where they might live, should they be taken somewhere where they need help, and also their final wishes in terms of burial. I warned you before, these are some morbid topics, but they're extremely important. And what we find is that oftentimes people have very specific wishes when it comes to in-home versus outpatient care, or full-time versus part-time care, or being in a hospital versus being at home at the end of their life. There are a lot of decisions that you can make in advance of any of those situations happening, and we do find that most people make those decisions, but what doesn't often happen is they usually don't tell their loved ones about those decisions. So we highly encourage all of our clients, and we encourage you as well, to let your loved ones know your wishes. It seems simple, but if you think about it, when the time comes and you do need, for instance, long-term care or medical intervention or anything else, and when you do pass away, you want to make sure that whatever you wanted to have happen is how your family handles it. And if you don't have that in writing, typically as part of your estate plan or at the very minimum in a document that your family and loved ones have access to, then they have to make those decisions on your behalf and try to figure out what you would have wanted to happen. And sometimes those things don't meet up. So at the very least, list out your basic wishes in terms of what you want to happen with your medical care, what you don't want to happen with long-term care, medical interventions, end-of-life choices, and then your burial needs. Sometimes people don't even know where their parents or their grandparents want to be buried. And yes, I understand it's not a fun topic to talk about, but it's one that you want to have with your loved ones so that when you do pass away, they know what to do and how to handle those difficult decisions in the moments of grief and mourning that they're going through. And they can make those decisions being confident that that's what you wanted to happen, and they don't have to bear the weight of trying to figure it out on their own. So just to recap, number one was the list of accounts with all the information. Number two was the location or a copy of your will. Number three was the executor of your estate. And number four was your wishes for long-term care, medical, and end-of-life needs, and where and how you want to be buried. And last but not least, you might want to consider telling your children or your grandchildren if you're planning on giving them any money. And I know what you're thinking. This is crazy. Hold the fort. I'm not going to tell my kids or grandkids if I'm going to give them any money. I want to push back a little bit and tell you why we do encourage our clients to do so, or to at least consider it. Think about it this way. Let's say that you've saved and you've saved and you've saved and you've got 401k with a lot of money in it. And I know a lot of money is a subjective term. Let's say you have $3 million in your 401k. You get into retirement, you figure out you don't spend that much money, and you really want that money to benefit the ones you loved, as many people do. You have several options. We're not going to talk about that today, but let's, for ease of example, say that you want to provide for your grandchildren's education. And that's all you've thought about. You're not exactly sure what that means, but you're thinking maybe you provide for their college education. You don't realize that you have options. And let's say that your kids have decided to put their kids, also known as your grandkids, in private school, and that private school is expensive. Many people might think, well, they're gonna have to make it work until I pass away, and then they're gonna get the money and be able to do with it what they wanna do. Or if you're gonna fund college education accounts, they will go directly to the recipient or beneficiary of that college education account. But think about it this way, people are living longer and longer. If you live to the age of 90 years old and you had kids, they might be in their 60s by the time you pass away, depending on how old you were when you had them. And most likely, if your kids had kids, those are your grandkids, as we're keeping up with all the kids, your grandkids are most likely also grown adults without the same needs. Now, do they probably need money in some way? Sure. But do you want to leave $2 million to a 65-year-old? Maybe not. At that point, your grandkids' college education might already be in the rear-view mirror. Yes, you might need to help them purchase a house or fund their kids' education, which would be your grandkids, but that's most likely not what you thought about when you were planning and investing and saving over a long period of time. So what are the alternatives? What are we encouraging our clients to do? There's two things. One, if you have plans for funding something in your kids' lives or in your grandkids' lives while you are living, tell them about it. You don't have to give them all the information, but think about it this way. If your kids are 40 years old and they're planning for all the stages that little Sally and little John are going to go through over the next 18 years, that becomes very expensive and very complex. And if they're trying to get ahead of these things and plan for them, they might be working with a financial advisor or financial planner to try to create a plan that allows them to make sure that they cover all the needs for their children. This might include 529 accounts for their college education or for their high school education should they go to a public school. It might include car purchases. It might include down payments on first houses. It might include the wedding. It might include all of it. And more than likely, they are going to have to save a lot of money over a long period of time to cover all of those needs. Let's look at college education as an example of how this could potentially go the opposite direction of how you want it to go. Let's say that you've been thinking that you're going to surprise your kids down the road and say, hey, guess what I saved for your kids' college education, my grandkids' college education. Let's say also they don't know about it, and so they're pummeling money into a 529 plan, which is a college education savings account. And they start saving when little John and little Sally are born, and they are consistent and they sacrifice. So they give up vacations, they give up new cars, they give up a lot, as they wisely should, because they think they're gonna have to fully fund their kid's college education. That day comes, the kid turns 18, decides to go to college, and all of a sudden you pop out of the closet and go, hey, hooray, we're gonna pay for all of it. Well, we have a problem right here, and it's a good problem to have, but at this point, college education is now double funded. You've saved for it, your kids have saved for it, and now little John and little Sally have more college money saved up than they can actually use. And yes, there are some things they can do with it, but it's not as clean and simple as you thought it might be. So let's look at an alternative to that situation. Let's say that little John and little Sally are born and you decide you're gonna save up, and you tell your kids, hey, we want to help out with college education. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but here's the plan. We're going to save X% of their college education. That is our goal over the next 18 years, or if you start late, over the next 8 years. We want to help out, and this is how we're going to do that. Little John and little Sally are going to be grateful because they get college education that's helped out. But also, your kids are going to benefit from that because that goes into their current financial planning. So no longer are they meeting with their financial advisor going, we've got to figure out how to meet our goal of paying for our kids' college education in full. They don't have to do that anymore. So that alleviates the cash flow burden of saving for that and allows them to put that money to use in other ways, whether it's saving for another goal, whether it's enjoying themselves and maybe taking a trip every once in a while, whatever it is, you are freeing up their current cash flow and allowing them to shift that to something else. So we encourage people, if you're gonna save some money for your kids or your grandkids, tell them about it. As much as you're comfortable with, you don't have to give them all the information, but it can be really helpful as they're planning. And that just leads to the final point of you don't have to save all your money and then pass away and then give it to all your kids. We use a term called living giving, which is watching your money that you've saved for a long time benefit the ones that you love while you're still alive. This is much more common now than it was 20 years ago, but people are beginning to fund college educations, car payments, down payments on houses. If you haven't seen it, life's really expensive right now. So when kids are graduating from college, they typically don't have the opportunity to make a lot of money right now, and that could change. But many clients of ours who happen to be parents and grandparents have decided, you know what? I don't want to wait until I pass away to give that money. I'm going to start helping out now. And there are ways to do that. And I want to give you the asterisk. You got to make sure that you get tax advice, legal advice, estate planning advice, all of the advices, because this is not advice. This is just general education to get you thinking about things and help out. But we do have something for you. If this is helpful, we want to try to provide as many resources for you as possible. So we created a tool. It's a checklist of the things you should be considering before you retire. And it's a fairly lengthy list. In these videos, we go over 3 or 5 things like we did today, but we want to provide this tool for you free. no obligation whatsoever. The things that you should be considering before you retire. I think it's 2 pages of stuff. It's really well done. If you want that, we're gonna put a link in the information below. You click on that link and it will automatically email you a copy of this free tool. And hopefully it's helpful for you. That's the entire goal right here, is to provide you with education and assistance so that we can get you thinking about these things. And if you decide down the road you wanna have a conversation about working with a financial advisor, we'd love to talk to you. You can find out everything about the way we do business and how we charge and all of those things on our website, which is ellisretirement.com. You can also click the little box in the top right corner and schedule a direct Zoom call with me. We'll have a conversation. I love hearing people's stories, learning if we can help them, and we'll be the first to tell you if we can't. We're not a great fit for everyone, but we'd love to talk to you. If you have any questions, let us know. Feel free to submit them on the website, but download the tool. I think it'll be helpful for you. And if there's anything we can talk about or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us a note. We'd love to do so. Appreciate it. Have a great one. We'll talk to you next time.